Hi, guys. Welcome to XtraTalk. We're going to talk about Ocampos today, and we got two great guests with us. Below, we have Chris from the Munchies Man podcast, which is a Sevilla podcast, basically talk about Sevilla. Am I correct, Chris?
That's correct.
That's correct. Welcome to the show. And next to me, we have Rory, who is the editor of Fútbol España, a great website. Also, they're on Twitter for all the news, basically everything surrounding Spanish football, basically. Although he's not a Sevilla fan, I have to warn our viewers, he's not a Sevilla fan. It's good to have an outside view of somebody that follows the Spanish football. But you will reveal in a bit which club you support, which is fine. You can share it with us. I will go with Chris first. Chris, one thing we always do is we want to know how you became a fan of your club. So tell us about your love for Sevilla.
Sure. I actually fell in love with a girl first here in the United
That's new.
States.
That's new for me. That's new. Okay.
Yep. My girlfriend's family, well, longtime girlfriend at this point, partner, if you will, is from Sevilla. Her family's from Sevilla, and we've been together for a long time. I went to the city first time, I think, in 2002. Kind of shows how long we've been together. And just at that time, I wasn't a huge football fan. I didn't follow it here in the United States. I was, American football, baseball, basketball kind of guy, but not really much into, football. Um,
Can I say
got
quickly? Can I say
Sure,
quickly one thing?
yeah.
I'm so happy that you're saying football. Just want to make that clear.
normally I
So
say
happy.
normally I
So
say
happy. You're
football. Or I
no,
try
but
to.
no, it's good. It's not soccer. I'm already happy you're saying football. So go
No,
ahead.
Chris is one of the good ones. You've got one of the good ones.
Good, good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So went to the city, watched some games on TV in the bars there in Sevilla. We went back in like 2008 or 2009 sometime, and it was during the Derby. And going to the bars, the Derby is probably one of the biggest in Europe, where Sevilla and I don't want to say their name, but Real Betis play one of the biggest matches in world football. And just seeing how lively that city comes together to watch these two teams battle it out was amazing to me, and I just fell in love with it. From that point on, I was hooked, and just I was looking. And in 2008, Spanish football in America was, other than Barcelona and Real Madrid, you couldn't find any information. Like, it was super super difficult, and so I'm scouring the web. Can't find anything. Nothing. And Reddit didn't exist. Twitter didn't exist. Nothing. So finally in 2010, I found a group of guys that had started Monchi's Men, which is an online forum for English speaking Sevilla fans. And it started out really small, but we've grown it to about 200 or so users worldwide. We've got users in Kosovo, in Hong Kong, here in the States, Canada, even in Spain. We've got some expats there in Spain that follow us there. Just a great community that we built, and a few years back we decided to do a podcast as well, just to kind of uh, try to grow that English speaking fan base for Sevilla, because it is a great club and a lot of history, and it's been a great ride since 2010 with all the Europa League trophies. And it's a good squad. So if your listeners are out there looking for a Spanish La Liga team to follow, there's none better than Sevilla. We're not up there with the greats of Real Madrid and Barcelona, but we're right there, and we definitely have a. It's not easy to be a Sevilla fan all the time. I always say it's easy to be these top clubs fans, right? Real Madrid, Barcelona. It's easy to be a fan of those guys. Not so much for the rest of La Liga. So, uh, me personally, I love an underdog story. Sevilla's been that for a long time. Maybe not much recently. I think we've kind of climbed that ladder, and we're one of the top clubs in the league now. But as we've seen this year, we can still fall very quickly. So that's me, man. I love Sevilla. It's part of my daily life. Everybody that knows me knows about it, and I bleed. I might as well be a Sevillano. I think I'm an honorary member. Maybe.
Maybe you're retired there. Who knows?
One day, I hope so.
Thank you, man. It's a really nice story. And honestly, I mean, I don't follow Spanish football. I have to be honest. I do see some highlights or some things or scores and these kind of things. But the thing that does stick with me, Sevilla has grown. In the past decade or before that, even it's always these difficult games. Even when Barca or Madrid plays against them, it's like it's not an easy game for them. It's always like on the highest level. So that's the impression I have. So I respect Sevilla very much, and of course, I know about the trophies you guys won, especially with Unai Emery. So yeah, that's the thing that I know a little bit about Sofia. So I'm very
Yeah,
happy to have you. Also,
thank you.
Rory, welcome. So okay, you can reveal you're not a Sevilla fan. You can reveal which club you support. It's okay. You can do it.
Yeah, well, I also fell in love with a precocious young thing, but that was by the name of Ronaldinho, rather than a girl. And yeah, so my kind of story started there. I went to South America when I was quite young, just on holiday, and I was already a big fan of Ronaldinho. Learned a bit of Spanish, and then ended up going to Barcelona, following some to the city, and sort of fell in love with not just the club but the, and it kind of ended up shaping the rest of my life, actually, because studied Spanish after, lived in Barcelona, and obviously working in Spanish football kind of as a result. So yeah, Ronaldinho was kind of the start, the seedling that grew into a large tree of Barcelona fandom. But yeah, I mean, I like to think of myself somewhat rational when it comes to Barcelona. I can understand that they do bad things, and have done quite a few of them in recent years.
All right. So we know you guys are now fans, Sevilla, Barcelona, but now we have to talk about why you guys are here, right? So Lucas Campos, guys, we signed him in the summer. It was a whole, I mean, it was very much to the end of the transfer window. You guys know this. We sold Anthony. He didn't want to stay with us, so he left. And then we were looking for someone, and Ajax came with Ocampos, and we wanted him on a permanent transfer first for I think 20 million euros or something. Later, it was blocked by our supervisory board, and then Sevilla came with an offer like, okay, take him for 15 million, and then we still didn't do it, and we went on the loan. But it was also very stressful for you guys, for Sevilla, Chris, because you guys were about to sign Januzaj, right? And you guys were waiting for us to take Ocampo so you guys can conclude that deal. Am I correct on this?
Yeah, we made two kind of deadline transfers there. The main one I think that we needed the money for was the Casper Dolberg signing. I think
Oh
was
yeah,
the
of
one
course.
that was more important because that actually came with a fee.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a stressful day for us. Like, is he staying? Is he going? Kind of like our manager right now. uh, but back to Ocampos, yeah, it was very stressful, and it was. We thought it was done at 20, which I think for Sevilla fans thought it was a little low for Ocampos.
Okay.
And once we heard that the board didn't approve it, it was kind of like a slap in the face a little bit because it was like we know the quality of this guy. Now he has had a couple down years and his market values dropped, but we're talking about a guy that was while at Sevilla, his market value was up at 55 million US
Okay.
dollars. So and that's according to transfer market, and we know how that is up and down. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a really good player that's an impact player and somebody that's really important for this team. And I think it's surprised a lot in Spanish media, maybe not Spanish media, but Spanish fan base that's not Sevilla fans, that he moved because they knew how important he was to this team. With that said, I mean, Sevilla needed to make some changes and a shakeup, if you will. We have a lot of Argentinians, and there was rumors that there's kind of an Argentinian clique there with the Campos and some of the other guys, and I think that kind of maybe played into it. That's all rumors, and I hate to
Yeah.
share that, but um, who knows why? I mean, we're talking about a guy that led us in goals only 3 years ago, and now to move him on for very little money, if you will. I think it shocked a lot of people.
All right. Let me ask the outside fan, Rory. Uh, all right, that's the last joke I will make. But Rory, on a serious note, how good is Ocampos? Do you share the same sentiment as Chris has about him as a player? Because he came to Sevilla in 2000. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2019,
Yep.
and so he
Yes.
played a couple of years. So, what's your overall view on him?
Yeah, well, now you'll get the honest opinion. No, I'm only joking, Chris. But yeah, I think my opinion on Ocampos is it's a little bit sort of up and down because, as Chris says, he's had a couple of down years. He's gone from de más a menos, as they say in Spain, where he's kind of started really well and he led Sevilla in goals, scored about 17 goals or so in his first season. And then last season, it just kind of declined in total. He had 9 goals, 6 assists, and he's kind of mimicked and mirrored the way that Julen Lopetegui's Sevilla have gone. They've kind of been on the decline. I think the way that Sevilla played and the fact that they themselves have not been as successful has contributed to an Ocampos that is less effective. He's less exciting to watch in the last kind of season, the last 12 months. So I think he's kind of hard to evaluate because the best Ocampos that we saw at the start of his Sevilla spell is a totally different player to the Ocampos that I was watching last season, which part of Ocampos's game is his aggression and his bite and the fact that he has that Argentine kind of, well, it's Uruguayan is the phrase, but gara, he has that sort of fighting spirit. And that's something that's really important to his game, but it kind of overshadowed his game a little bit for me last season, and it became almost kind of petty, and the fouls became sort of like a bigger part of his game than the sort of line breaking and the driving at the defense. So I think the Ocampos at his peak, and I don't know if Ajax were maybe hoping for a Dusan Tadic kind of effect, where he comes from a team that's maybe stagnated a little bit. Sorry, Chris, and goes into a system where the manager gives him the tools, gives him the space to create and be sort of his best version of himself. Because the best version of himself is a really good Champions League player. He can cut it sort of quarterfinals level, at least even a little bit beyond. Whether you get that or whether you get the Ocampos that we've seen last season, which I found particularly disappointing, that's the big question.
Yeah, that's
Chris,
it.
can I ask you? Yeah, can I ask you something about that? So,
Yeah.
Rory alluded to the fact that Ocampos in the beginning is a different player than at the end, right? So last season, what changed? Is it his form? Is it purely looking at him, or did tactics change as well, or something in the team?
Not really team related. I mean, as Rory said, I mean, the decline of Sevilla under Lopetegui, and it's hard to say decline because I mean we finished in the same position every year. But if you watch this squad last year in particular, you saw that decline. You can't just look at finishing position. You know that this team is not the same team. With that said, I think Ocampos, he got injured. I think it was in the 21-22 season, if I'm not mistaken. He had an ankle injury where he missed about 5 games. Prior to that, he looked like old Ocampos. And then after that injury, he just seemed to be more lacking the aggression, to borrow your term. Um, he couldn't beat players anymore. You saw Campos a lot of times he would dribble around players. He loved doing nutmegs and that sort of thing, and he would try to pull those off, and it just didn't come anymore for him. And you definitely saw a different Campos. I think the aggression was there. Or the want to, if you will. He never stopped working. He's a workhorse, and you'll never see that guy want to come off. He's going to give you everything he can for 90. That's one thing you're getting out of that player.
Yeah.
However, just
So
not the same quality that we saw that first year. However, that 17 goal scored, 5 of those were penalty kicks. So he was taking penalties for other people there as well. He
okay.
lost that position midway through last year, I believe, and hasn't seen any penalties since then. He missed one, and once he missed that one, he totally got taken off the penalty roll. So.
And if I can just come in on the sort of ankle injury, you see it as well. It's actually looking that. So if you go back to his first the season just before he moved to Sevilla at Marseille, he had 693 pressures in Ligue 1. If you go back to last season, it was 397. And that showed a kind of consistent decline, which I think was part of the sort of playing style and the troubles that Lopetegui has had to inspire the same results that he did in the first season at Ocampos was there. But also, I think, perhaps that ankle injury, perhaps that just touch of sharpness that a lot of Sevilla's players were lacking impacted on Ocampos and his ability to be that aggressive, sort of biting, kind of nightmarish winger that he was at the start of his Sevilla career.
Sure, he's definitely a player that's unusual. I think at that wing position, especially in La Liga, because he's a big guy. He's 6'1", I think, almost 170 pounds or something. Like he's a big dude playing wing, and that's a challenge for most, especially the La Liga defenders. One other thing about that first season with Sevilla that I think it is important, he was playing alongside with one of the best midfielders in La Liga's history, or at least Sevilla's history, and Ever Banega, a fellow Argentinian, and he made a difference in the Sevilla. And Sevilla's midfield really hasn't recovered since losing Banega, and I think that was a big part of his success that first season.
All right. Okay. Wow, you guys gave me a lot of information already. I don't have any questions anymore. No, I'm just joking.
This is our podcast now.
No, I think you guys covered a lot of interesting points, and I wanted to touch upon it, but you guys are giving me a lot of openings right now. So what's clear to me right now and to the viewers is that there is like a split in Ocampos. There is the beginning Ocampos at Sevilla, and there is the last season Ocampos. Let me put it that way. So we bought the last season Ocampos for. Actually, we didn't buy him. We loaned. We got him on loan. But my question is: so okay, I heard aggression, I heard drive, work rate, these kind of things. So let's say these are his strengths. Rory? Can you tell me a little bit more about what sets him apart as a winger? Because that's his position, I believe. And what's his points in which you think, okay, these are things he has to develop?
Yeah, I think in terms of that height and that power, that size, that is a big thing. And I think I'm not going to compare him to Cristiano Ronaldo, but like he does add something that a lot of fullbacks will struggle with in terms of his size. I think in terms of his strengths, where he really sort of benefited and where he got a lot of his chances were sizing up a fullback one-on-one in space. He has the ability to knock it past the defender or just work a yard of space and get a shot off. And particularly in that first season, his finishing was really lethal. And he came up with a lot of big goals that, Chris referenced Ever Banega. If Ajax can sort of work a situation in which Ocampos is left kind of on one side on his own in a bit of space, that's where I think he really thrives. And so yeah, that ability to beat a man, certainly when he's at his sharpest, is one of his best things. In terms of weaknesses, as much as he is technically very good, and Chris says that he has sort of a penchant for the nutmeg, he likes to sort of stand a player up. I'm not sure he's as maybe technically refined as, say, Papu Gomez, who's also in the Sevilla side and has that kind of real sort of soft sort of cushion touch that others do. So I think Ocampos is, he's far more blood and thunder than he is kind of a refined sort of technical player that's going to sort of slip passes through the defense. And it's much more of a sort of power forward. That's not an expression used in football. That's other sports, but that's kind of what he is. And Sevilla managed to work situations in which he was able to exploit that very well in his first seasons. They played, I think, they kept the ball, and they managed to sort of break teams down pretty well in that first season, but they also hit on the break a bit more. This season, possession has been a lot slower. I don't imagine that's going to be an issue at Ajax. I think they will obviously have a bit more tempo to their game, and hopefully that should benefit Ocampos.
All right, Chris, I have a question for you. So looking at his best position, where did he play at Sevilla during those years? Where was he used mostly, and which other position did he cover as well?
Sure. Yeah. He played mostly left wing for a couple seasons. He started out playing right wing in that first season that he really strived at. And him and Jesus Navas, our fullback, really worked well together, doing a lot of overlapping runs. Navas would come in, Ocampos drop back and kind of cover that a lot. But he can play either wing position. Yeah, go ahead.
Just quickly for us
Mhm.
to understand, maybe I had to start with this. You guys play 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1? How do you guys play usually? Because this is important, I think.
4-3-3 is Lopetegui's
Okay, sorry.
preferred
I had to
position.
ask this question. Yeah,
This
okay.
season's been a little weird, but yeah, I mean that's his preferred position.
Okay.
With that said, so he can play either wing position. I actually think personally he's more productive on the right hand side. He's also with us. He's played both fullback positions, so right and left side fullback in a pinch. I wouldn't say that's his best position. We've talked about it on our podcast of his future role, and we all kind of think that that's where he'll end up as a fullback later in his
Interesting.
career. Yeah.
That's very interesting because prior to our last game that we had over the weekend against AZ, there was a press conference with our coach, our new coach, Alfred Schroeder. And he actually said that they're planning on playing Ocampos maybe on a different role because the one that's playing now on the right wing, which is also a little bit of a surprise at the moment for us, is Tadic.
Mhm.
And Tadic is our captain. And he plays almost everything. Not almost. He plays everything. So, and everybody was thinking like, yeah, maybe that other position because Schroeder didn't want to say which position that would be, but a lot of people were already anticipating maybe he will be a right back. So he played it before then. It's not a new thing that maybe he will play for the first time at Ajax. Am I correct?
Sure. Yeah, he's played that position with Sevilla when other people were injured and couldn't play, or late in games where maybe Lopetegui was trying to get more of a possession. We might be down a goal or something. He might move Ocampos back and allow for a little more attacking with him in those roles. And he is unusual in today's football that he can use both feet. He's primarily, I would say, right-footed. I think he scored most of his goals with his right, but he can use his left, and he's pretty good with his head too. So, um, with that said, I don't think he's the best crosser. Which in today's modern football, I think your fullbacks need to be able to put in a good cross. I don't know if you have a different opinion there, Rudy, or not, but for me, I don't think he's a great crosser, but serviceable.
Rudy, you can react to this. I also want to add maybe another question.
I'll be
Do you
honest.
agree? Yeah, of course. Please be please be honest.
Sure.
Do you understand why coaches might use him as a also as a fullback, basically a wingback?
Yeah, I can see why some managers would look at Ocampos, look at his profile, because he is big as Chris says. He's tall, he's pacey, he's strong, he's got the right attitude, he's got that kind of bite to his game. And so you look at that and you think, yeah, perfect sort of ingredients for a fullback. In the Eredivisie, when Ajax are attacking smaller teams and they have a lot of the ball, I can see it working and I can see it being a useful asset. But if you were to take that into Europe, if you were to take that into a Champions League clash against a side that might take the ball off Ajax a little bit more, I mean, Napoli coming up, I have my doubts, to be honest, wherever he would work, because as much as Ocampos does have some of the attributes required to be a fullback, he's not a natural defender. I think he's closer to a striker than he is to a defender, in my view. And Ocampos, I'm not going to say he has a big ego, but he does have one, as do all humans. And I can imagine that going from the 50, 60 million man who's going to move to Manchester United to playing right back for Ajax, like not any disrespect for Ajax, but just playing right back and not being sort of one of the key sort of factors in attack, I can't imagine him appreciating that too much, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, so that might be an issue for us because now everything is quiet still, but we're just early in the season. He hasn't played a lot. But you think if this continues, then it might be an issue because I remember he said in the interview that he also going to Ajax with also looking at the World Cup, so he's also thinking of making a chance to go to the World Cup. So this might affect him a lot. Yeah, we'll
That-
see.
That's
Yeah,
a
go
good
ahead.
point. Yeah, because we've been talking about the old Ocampos versus the new, and he was in that Argentinian squad. Like he was
Yeah.
playing quite frequently and scoring goals. So that's a big point that he's going to want to try to be in that World Cup squad. So getting minutes and getting attacking minutes is going to be important because he did play that kind of right wing role with Argentina. Argentina, sorry.
I
um,
want, yeah, no, I wanted to ask because this is also something that I wanted to ask. You guys are always quicker than me right now before I ask the question. Um, what about his attitude? Like, okay, you guys touch upon his ego, fighting spirit, these kind of things. Is there anything else we should know about his personality, maybe? And maybe you can also give an example, on the field, off the field, something you witnessed during his tenure at Sevilla, Chris.
yeah, that's got me thinking. He's he's very emotional. He's Argentinian, so he's an emotional fella, but he's also a streaky player. So when he's going good, he's really, really good, and he's right there with you. When things are going bad, he's still working, but you can see like if he gets pulled off, he's not very happy with that. With that said, I think he's a good locker room guy, especially when he's surrounded with people that he feels a piece of home with. And I think you guys have an Argentinian on your team um, that maybe can help him with that. But he definitely likes that home culture, and I think that will help ground him. I don't know. It's gonna be fun to watch just to see how he fits into the squad. I watched a little bit of the game this weekend, and just I saw that he was kind of over there on an island, not really working himself into the team very much, kind of on the outside skirts, waiting for that maybe a loose ball or something, not really involving himself in the play. And I think he's just trying to get used to
Yeah,
the group. And also, there's probably a language barrier there. I would
yeah,
imagine
of
that
course.
he's got to get
Yeah,
used to. So
absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
And he was sort of very much in his comfort zone. I mean, Chris kind of mentioned earlier about the Argentines, and yeah, just to bite the bullet here, there was a sort of rumor that there was an Argentine clique within the Sevilla dressing room, and that they were sort of maybe voicing opinions, calling shots, perhaps not agreeing with Julen Lopetegui all the time. How much of a role Ocampos played in that, nobody knows for sure, and nobody will know until a couple of years down the line, probably. But I think there's definitely an argument to say that Sevilla were the most Argentine, the most South American side that La Liga's seen for some time. And that was very much, Campos was a big part of that. Eber Banega before he left. And there was a definite sort of group of Argentines that dominated the dressing room, dominated the culture there. And so going from that, where he was probably a big part of the dressing room, to Ajax, where I think there's probably, I mean, it's the Netherlands, so like there's people with strong opinions. I love the fact that people do voice exactly what they think in the Netherlands, but yeah, I think there's probably a system and a culture at Ajax that he will have to adapt to, and whether he adapts to that well, whether he gets the help from Alfred Schreuder and sort of takes to it well, that will be a big part of how successful he is at Ajax. And if he doesn't quite take to it, then that will be the cause of problems. And I do want to say it sounds like we're being negative, but I think that's just because of the way that Sevilla have started the season, the way that Ocampos has kind of started the season, that influences our view a lot. But yeah, as I say, that best Ocampos is a real asset, and if they do get it, then he'll be more than worth. I think they do have a 16 million buy option. Is that right?
They have a buy option. That's correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's optional. It's not mandatory. Rory, I want to stick with you a little bit. So because I'm not doubting what Chris is saying. Don't get me wrong, right? He's a Sevilla fan and these kind of things. But I will ask him as well the same question. From Ajax stand, right? It's very difficult to get. Anthony left. I mean, a couple of days before the end of the transfer window, they had to act quickly. They came to Ocampos, which was, of course, a surprise to us as well. Do you understand? Can you not do you, but can you understand Ajax? Uh, targeting Ocampos to as a last minute transfer to come to Ajax. Do you think it's a savvy decision? Not talking about the loan or the permanent transfer, purely whether he fits the Ajax philosophy, the team, whether he brings something new to the team. What's your view on that? From an outsider, of course.
I'll be honest. He's not someone that I would put together with Ajax. Certainly, if you asked me at the start of the transfer window whether that's a signing that makes sense for Ajax, that's a signing that they would pursue. It doesn't fit with the admittedly outside view that I have of Ajax as well, which is more often than not recruiting young talent, developing them, and then perhaps selling them on. Can he be sort of a Dusan Tadic? Well, he doesn't quite fit the same sort of technical ability that Tadic has. So you are buying something or loaning something in that's different to what they have. But I think increasingly we're seeing that is what a lot of managers want, is variation and having different options, players that do different things. And when Ajax get put into situations that are different to the ones that they plan for, or whether they need sort of a different threat on the right or the left side, that's where the Ocampos can be valuable. But yeah, if you're asking me for a straight up answer, is that a transfer that I saw as a fit that goes together sort of very well? No, it's not something that I look at and it was just like, yes, that makes perfect sense. But yeah, you never know, and sometimes sort of necessity is the mother of all invention, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, do you agree or do you have a different view on this?
No, I think I agree to a certain degree. I think what is attractive to Ocampos, or why folks are attracted to him as a player, is that versatility. He can play on the right or the left. He's gonna work. So if you're looking for a player to throw on in the second half where you might need a goal, just like on Saturday when you guys are playing, or Sunday, uh, he's gonna win you the ball back. He's very good at winning possession back when it's lost. He likes to lose it some too, but um, I think a manager
Is he,
loves that
just
guy.
quickly, is he the kind of player, if you lose the ball, he tracks back and tries to win it back?
Yes,
Absolutely.
without a
Okay.
doubt. Yeah,
All right.
constant work rate with this
Okay.
guy. So
Okay.
um, now, is he going to do a rash challenge? Very possible to win the ball back
Sometimes. Sometimes.
sometimes. But he
All
has
right.
gotten better at that. His first year at Sevilla, I think he had 10 yellow cards and a red card. Since then, that number's tracked. Well, the
Okay.
second year he had like 3, then it went back up to 7 after his injury. But, um, he's an aggressive player, but it's going to be a luxury for a manager, I think, to throw on and be able to do many different things with. I was kind of looking at Ajax's roster there and saw that it's a bit thin up top, outside your 2 main guys, and if they can move tactics back to maybe back into the midfield, if Ocampos can find his form, that I think would be really advantageous to those guys. But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you guys know about this, but there was a lot of discussion on the media about the right side position, because the whole idea is we snatched basically Conceição from Porto in the summer for 5 million, and he's basically seen as a replacement for Anthony. But we were well, not we, but Ajax. But I say we. Ajax was looking to keep Anthony one more year, and the idea was then Conceição would be ready to step in. So Conceição would need like a year to like get used to everything. But now we were faced with the challenge that, yeah, he left United. That wasn't part of the plan. Conceição is still too young to play there, and I think this was more from the supervisory board, that this was the plan and the strategy. That's why they blocked the permanent transfer of Ocampos, because they said we're not going to pay. I mean, it's not only 20 million, right? It's also the salary, all these kind of things. And for us, it's a lot of money, and you're going to buy somebody who's going to basically block Conceição, perhaps, who's seen as a very good player. I think it has to do with that, and if I also think about what I mean from that perspective, to be very honest, and I hope I'm wrong. I honestly hope I'm wrong, but it's not a good. How do you call it? It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign when you get a player that's basically like a plaster on something for a year,
yeah,
and just to have somebody. And I'm not saying he doesn't have quality, he doesn't add something to the team, but that's why I'm also wondering whether we will keep him after the year, after the
Uh,
loan. So
And
go ahead.
it works in two ways as well, because
Yeah,
you can look at it and say, and I think this is where Schroeder has to earn his money. You can
yeah,
look at it and say, well, he's had this transfer blocked, he knows for a fact that the club has doubts about him, that they don't necessarily think that he's God's gift and he's going to be there forever. On the flip side, you can frame it, and put it to him like, well, prove it. Show that you can be that guy.
Yeah.
And if he takes that challenge on and becomes sort of a crucial part of this Ajax side, maybe that's a good motivation for him to get out of the slump that he was in last season. So yeah, I think it's very much Schroeder he's going to prove how well he can manage Ocampos here, because yeah, I think it can go either way very much with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, we talked about a lot of things about Ocampos already. I think everybody knows a little bit what kind of player he is, and also his Sevilla, how it was, these kind of things. So just quickly, yes or no? That's the end of basically the show, the video. If we can get Ocampos to the level of his first year at Sevilla, I'm going to put a statement out there. You guys just have to agree or disagree, and maybe you can add something to it. But he's undoubtedly an added value to Ajax. Chris?
Without a doubt, that first year Ocampos was fun to watch. I mean, just absolutely fun to watch, because he was so energetic and scoring some really good goals, and providing as well, and scoring really important goals. The first year he scored the 87th minute winner against the Wolves in the Europa League, on our way to winning another Europa League trophy. So he feels the pressure. He can perform under pressure if he can get that confidence back. And I think it's just confidence and getting his mind right. And that's what we're all hoping that happens, because I want to see him play in the World Cup. If you get that kind of player that you saw that Sevilla had, he will move people down the depth chart and provide for Ajax, I think. If you get the player that we've had recently, he'll get some minutes, but you won't make that purchase, I don't think.
Yep. Rory,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we've seen Ocampos from last season more in Europe than we've seen the Ocampos from his first season. Having said that, Ocampos from his first season was one of the best players in La Liga. He was really sort of took the league by storm, took Spain by storm. So if Ajax do get that Ocampos, then they have one of the best players in the Eredivisie. I'll put that out there. So yeah, I think if they do get that first season Ocampos, Ajax have made a sensational deal. Whether they can is obviously the big question.